And at Kuypers.
Just because I'm going to read through my
I kind of actually.
da, da, da.
Let's give me the news. And
I still think it's creepy that you call.
news is usually not very
You should definitely.
fun, so these might not be fun. This is something that I read in one feature. It was on the beach in Chicago, and I decided to call it a goth beach feature. And I dressed in a black tank top and shorts, and it was in the beginning of July, and my birthday was in the end of June, and I was given roses. But they, of course, died by the beginning of July. So what I do, chopped them all off so there were stems, and I gave away rose stems to everybody. And I had a guy that was there playing the guitar, and it was really, really funny because I was calling it a goth feature. And this was something that I read only there. And it's actually based on a dream, and it's called Eat Me Alive. I had a dream. I woke up in a sewer. My clothes were wet from the filthy water. I felt like something was pulling me down into the filth as I worked harder and harder to just stand. And I thought, how did I get here? Who put me here? And how on earth am I going to get out of here? Who drove me to this point? I felt the slimy walls, the filthy walls of this coffin-like cave as I was trying to find a ledge for support, trying to find a way, any way out. Any noise from people walking above ground was muffled, when then I heard the rats coming along with the water from down the tunnel. I turned to the darkness to run, but I tried to take a turn, and then I was suddenly wedged in the concrete slabs. I was stuck in the sewer, and the rats would eat me alive. Based on a dream. This is a true story, called Anderson. I started having pets only when I was away to college. The option didn't seem there for me until I was on my own. I'd go to the pet superstore and buy some feeder goldfish, 25 cents each for a little bowl in my dorm. There was no air filter, and since I didn't know any better, these 25-cent goldfish would eventually die. So I started to name them after ex-boyfriends, so that when they died, I wouldn't feel bad when I flushed them down the toilet. But then I decided on a new and improved pet, one I could name as my own and that could crawl all over me. So I got this little salamander. I named my Newt Anderson, named after a performance artist, not, trust me, it's not after like the politicians or any news anchors or anything like that. So Anderson sat in my goldfish bowl, crawled around for the shrimp pellets that I dropped in for food, and I bring Anderson out to crawl up my arm. And I felt like I had accomplished something with my pet Anderson. I had him for a year until I went home for one summer. That summer I traveled around the country, so I told my sister all she had to do was drop food pellets in once every few days so that Anderson would have food. So after my trip to Arizona, where it was so hot that I could literally smell my flesh burn, my sister told me Anderson was missing. She didn't take the newt from the bowl. Anderson couldn't crawl out, but Anderson escaped. I wondered if she did this because she didn't want to have to take care of a newt, but really, this wasn't hard work. And 2 months later, a cleaning lady came by and cleaned the basement, and then she held up Anderson's carcass and asked if we were missing someone, and if this might be someone we were looking for. That's when I realized that I got out of this place, and my little Anderson, he was just trying to do the same. I've never read. Someone had a feature, and they asked to read pieces from other people in it, so I gave them this. So I'm going to share this piece called One Summer Traveled. And this might have been about the summer that I traveled when I lost my Anderson. I have no idea, but this is called One Summer Traveled. we had our differences, but I was looking forward to seeing you, to seeing Southern California, the streets, the glamour, the beaches, the commercialism. And you had to cart me away with your religious trips to the wilderness, leaving me at a campsite when you went off to church. And I sat there for days, watching us become bloodthirsty. We were trying to hurt each other. We were like animals, you starting your life with me in tow. But at least I saw the redwood forests. And traveling later, I never imagined how beautiful the East Coast could be, rolling hills curling one state into another. We'd drive up one hill in the truck, and I would lift my head, my chin up as high as I could to anticipate, to try to see the other side. I remember walking along the beach in Maine, restored buildings lining the rocky shore, and fog so thick you couldn't see 50 feet in front of you. And people were sunbathing. And I photographed the lighthouse. How do they work in fog like this? It's so thick like the cigarette smoke coming from the inside of the truck when we would drive to antique shops in New Hampshire. Thick like a powerful force overcoming something that holds you there, that doesn't let go, like us. Watching the summer, the scenery travels past me, streamlining into blurred lines of color. I think of marriage, probably not with you, but I just think of marriage to someone. Marriage, streamlining life into a blur, settling down, settling. It's funny how your surroundings can change you. Thank you.
Yeah.